big round of applause for not only Mr. Ron Stone, but this great country we get to live in here today. Now, before we begin, I know we're going to make a lot of noise tonight, but I would like to take one moment of silence if we could.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to beautiful Satsuma, Florida. We're here at the Just Add Dirt Motorsports Park. My name is Dan Mayer. I'm going to be your host here tonight. Full pull live as we kick off the 2025 outdoor pulling season here. And a beautiful facility here. Some of the competitors out on the track right now checking things out. But we have got a beautiful, beautiful evening of action here. We see Don Dean out walking the dog right now out on the track, and he'll be one of our competitors out here tonight. But once again, glad to have you all here this weekend here in Satsuma, Florida. We got double track action, and it's going to be an outstanding program here. We're going to get things rolling here tonight. We've got the Pro Stock four-wheel drive trucks are going to be our first class of the evening. And looks like we've got our first truck rolling out on the track right now. So once again, thank you fans for joining in here, Full Pull Live, as we are live here in Satsuma, Florida here for 2 great days of pulling action as we've got our first competitor making his way to the starting line. Looks like going to be Dan Jernigan and the old black Dodge going to get us started here as he backs it in. We see the On the Mark sled over here on our pit side here tonight. We're going to run double tracks. So here on the pit side, we've got Mark Brigham out of the state of Ohio, the On the Mark sled. He is going to have the job here of stopping the horsepower here tonight. Of course, the old black Dodge here, Pro Stock, four-wheel drive. Now, some of the classes you're going to see here tonight, fans, are going to be local here to the state of Florida, as Dan Jernigan here and his old black Dodge going to be getting us rolling here tonight. Now, he's going to be our test puller. He'll be the only one that will have the option to take or turn down this run. These trucks will weigh in at 6,200 pounds, and we have got just a total mishmash of four-wheel drives here tonight to get us rolling here. So let's see what the old school Dodge is going to get on the track here tonight as we get things rolling here. Beautiful evening here in Satsuma, Florida. The fans rolling in here. We've got them out on the road trying to get into the facility. Everybody kind of waited to the last minute to get in here, but looks like we're about ready to get rolling here tonight with the old black Dodge over here on the infield track. Now over on the grandstand side here, we'll let you know in just a minute what we're going to start off with over there. But some great competition here tonight as we get rolling here. Satsuma, Florida session number 1. We're about 50 miles or so south of the Jacksonville area, about 30 miles west of St. Augustine, Florida, as we get ready to get things rolling here tonight. Here we go, Pro Stock four-wheel drives. All right, so Dan Jernigan going to get us rolling here, the old black Dodge, as he will be our test puller. We'll have the option to take or turn down this run. Now we give him that option simply because he hasn't seen anybody else go down the track here. So we'll see what the distance comes up here for him and whether or not he was satisfied with that one. As looks like we'll get ready to get rolling here with our other track as well, the grandstand track here. So we see the big Dodge moving away from the sled here. Got the DOT tires on this one here. We've got some trucks out there with the cut tires, as we see on the replay. Got after it. Rolled it out just a little bit here. And made a nice run here. Our first truck up in Pro Stock four-wheel drive competition here. Once again, we want to remind you folks, make sure you do get your picks in. We do have open picks here tonight for some of the classes you're going to see. Of course, the only gaming platform of tractor and truck pulling, and that is the Full Pull Picks. And be able to get some selections in here tonight on, I know, the Pro Stock four-wheel drive, the Limited Pro diesel trucks, the 3.0 trucks. You'll be able to make some wagers on those, as well as the 5.0 Pro Stocks as well. We see the Money Pit Ford sitting back there, Ford Ranger. So he's got the cut tires on it. Going to be another one of our Pro Stock four-wheel drives coming up here. So like we said earlier, we've got a mix of them down here. Some of the classes that are local here to the state of Florida is we've got the hot farm tractors. Well, they call them improved farm tractors. And this is going to be the promoter, Mark Telsey, up in this seat here. This is the gentleman that puts on the pole. He's going to pack in his international here. He's got another tractor we're going to see a little bit later on in our light super stock competition, but he's going to run here with the improved farm class. So over here on the grandstand side, we'll get rolling here, improved farm class here. So basically like a pro farm class of stock tractors here. We got, looks like we got a handful of them here tonight, as Mark Kelsey going to get us rolling here tonight. Our first puller here in improved farm. Here we go. And that's, well, right there is the first time that Mark has had a little bit of time to relax. And you can see he's putting thumbs down right there. He says, I'm not going to take that run. International 1066 as gets us rolling here tonight. And he's going to turn that run down, so he took his option as the test puller. But like I said, Mark been working so hard here, getting this facility ready to go here. That was the first time he had the opportunity to kind of sit back and relax and drive one of his pulling tractors here tonight. So improved farm. He's going to turn down that run. We'll get the distances in here for you in just a little bit here before we get tonight's action underway. So you see the Money Pit Racing ready to go here. Pro Stock 4-wheel drive competition, as this is going to be Randy Whiting and the Ford Ranger. So we saw the Dodge make his way down the track here. We don't have a distance on that. And just give me a second here and we'll get you the lineup here, the class order, what we were supposed to have here tonight. All right, so the Money Pit Racing right there, and that is Randy Whiting, and that's going to be awful close there. Taking over that number one spot here. We saw the Dodge of Dan Jernigan made a nice run here. We'll trying to get the distances here for you, let you know where everybody sits. So we do have an order here. We're going to run on the infield track. We've got the Pro Stock 4-wheel drives. We're going to run the light supers, the mini rods, the 5,200-pound 2-wheel drives, and then the modifieds over on the infield side. And then over on the grandstand side, we're going to run the improved tractors, improved farm tractors, and naturally aspirated mini rods, the 6,200-pound 2-wheel drives. Then we've got the V8 tractors and the super farms. Now we're also got two of the outlaw classes that we're going to run on the infield side at 8 o'clock. So 8 o'clock, they're going to go ahead, and we're going to have a class done at that point. We're going to start up with our 3.0 diesel trucks and as well as the 5.0 Pro Stocks that are going to run under outlaw sanction tonight. So we should be good to go here as we'll see our next puller up here is going to be the Ford over here on our improved farm side. And it looks like we've got the Little Beef tractor. This is going to be Levi Hamrick. And looks like a good-looking Ford, maybe at 8,000. Yeah, looks about 8,000 or 9,000 there. So Mark Kelsey turned down that run with the International 1066. So this will be our first official puller here over on the improved farm side. As we just saw over on the infield side, the 4-wheel drive side, the Money Pit truck of Randy Whiting at 321 and change. We'll get that back up here in just a second. As looks like we're underway here with the Little Beef tractor, Levi Hamrick. All right, and the Ford really starting to dig down here. And he's not going to make it very far down the track here tonight. A tough break there for Levi behind the wheel here of the Little Beef Ford tractor. So no doubt we will see him coming on back tomorrow in our action here. As, of course, all these competitors will have 2 shots here this weekend. We'll have 2 sessions. And we'll run 2 separate sessions as we've got the International moving out on the track right now, the Dinosaur truck. And we saw this truck just about a month ago down in Zellwood, Florida, one of the local 4-wheel drive trucks. So we'll move the Ford Ranger off the track as we'll bring the Dinosaur in here as we take a look at the replay here of Levi Hamrick with his Little Beef tractor, the Ford 9,000 or 8,000 tractor, as he turns to a halt out there. And we'll get the distance in here at 164.44. So he will set the mark to beat here. 164.44. So our first puller. Of course, we got Mark Kelsey coming on back. Remember, he was our test puller, turned down his run. As it looks like we're ready to go with the Dinosaur here tonight. As that Old School International right here. Lael White behind the wheel here. So looks like 321 and change is our mark to beat here over on the Pro Stock four-wheel drive side. As we start to sort things out here this weekend. All right, so Old School International on the starting line here. Pro Stock four-wheel drive competition here. So again, we're here in Satsuma, Florida. 1967 International. From right here in the state of Florida. All right, let's see if he can do it here tonight. All right, so the Dinosaur 67 International makes his run here tonight. Lael White. And we'll see what the distance comes up here as we've got the, well, International 1206 on the start line here. Dollars and no cents. And we have heard that from time to time on many a pulling vehicle. This is going to be Lawrence Heyman with his International 1206. Dollars and no cents here. So right now our mark to beat here in this class is 164 and 44. 164.44. Levi Hamrick leads the way. All right, so Lawrence Heyman going to strap himself in and start applying the power here as we'll take a look at the replay here of the Dinosaur International truck as he made his run here tonight. Now he had to go better than 321 to take over that number one spot. All right, here we go, back to live action. We've got the dollars and no cents as he turns to a halt. So going to be our new leader. And we'll see just exactly how far that will be here tonight. We'll take over that number one spot, the dollars and no cents 1206 International here tonight. So beautiful night of pulling here in Satsuma, Florida. We had temperatures right kind of on the edge of 80 degrees this afternoon. Beautiful weather here, and Mark Kelsey and his crew have been working on this track. They've been adding thousands and thousands of gallons of water. 281 and 44 the distance here. 281.44 the distance for the Dinosaur truck here tonight. Lael White will put him in the number 2 spot here, 281 and 44, and they're chasing that Ford Ranger at 321. That is the money pit of Randy Whiting. He leads the way here in our competition. So we're going to go back to four-wheel drive side, and we'll see who we got up next here. Kind of looking around here, seeing, looks like we got a good-looking early 80s Ford model right there. As looks like this is going to be John Edworth. John Edworth And the 1985 Ford doesn't have a name on it here out of Eustis, Florida. Got a good one going. I think we're going to have a new leader here. We'll have to officially wait on the measurement, but yeah, he got going. And that is the name of the game. Got to get that sled moving. That first 50 to 75 feet, you don't get that sled rolling. Not going to make it to the top end of the racetrack here. And that Ford F-250 here, 321 and change is what he had to beat here. So we'll see if John Edwards will take over the number one spot here. We saw the hop when he got on the throttle there. And these four-wheel drive trucks can be so tricky to drive out there. Heard from time to time, you know, the competitors will tell you got to match the ground speed with the horsepower. And if you don't, they will start hopping on you. So back over to our improved farm stock class as we've got the John Deere rolling, and he is moving. This is Rob Bell, the Deere Doctor. John Deere 4440. And this is going to be a good one here. Now, I do believe Lawrence Heyman is our leader. John Deere 4440 here. Looks like going to stretch it out maybe just a little bit further here. We'll see if we can get a leaderboard up here with our improved farm class here tonight. 4 entries in this class here tonight. And that's what they're all searching for, right there, that 300-foot mark. As you can see, this track here now, this area down here where we are in Satsuma, Florida, is all sand. It's a sandy surface down here. And Mark Kelsey, the promoter, has brought in Georgia clay to mix in here the track surface, and it is a biter. You can see those tires squatting a little bit there as it bounces down the track. As we see the John Deere 4440. That is the Deere Doctor of Rob Bell. And we'll see here what the distance comes up for Rob. So moving right along here in our first couple classes of competition here. So 246 and 60. 246 and 60 for the Deere Doctor here tonight. That'll put him in the number 2 spot here, all chasing Lawrence Heyman with his International 1206. Once again, Dan Mayer joining you here on Full Pole Live here. We're in Satsuma, Florida, session number 1 here as we get the 2025 campaign officially underway here tonight on Full Pole Live. And make sure you do, fans, check in here in the next the coming months here. We've got some really good content coming up for you. We've got some old school footage we're going to have available here on Full Pole Live. We've also got a Legend series in the work. You're going to want to make sure you pay attention to that. That's going to be a good one. But we're going to go back pulling here in just a little bit here as we got four-wheel drives, and it's our first Chevrolet of the evening, as it should be the Slightly Twisted 2 truck. This is going to be Art Williams, the Slightly Twisted 2, the Chevrolet. Good looking early 80s model Chevrolet right there. Let's see if he can beat the Fords here tonight. Now, once again, we got our leaderboard here. 321, the Money Pit truck. That's the Ford Ranger, leads the way. That's Randy Whiting leading the way here tonight. So the Slightly Twisted 2. Actually, 1978 Chevrolet, a little bit older. Avella, Pennsylvania, coming down from the Keystone State here tonight. Mix it up with the boys from Florida. Let's see if the Chevrolet can get it done here tonight. Here we go. Oh, yeah, Chevrolet getting it done here tonight in Satsuma, Florida. He's going to take over that number 1 spot in a big way here. As we're going to go right back to the starting line, we got Mark Kelsey in our improved farm class. Here we go with his second attempt. International 1066. And woo-hoo-hoo, this is going to be close. Now, we can definitely tell that they tightened that sled up a little bit here from the first time that Mark had ran. So we'll get you caught up here. Mark kind of looking around saying, hey, did I do it? So Lawrence Heyman was our leader here over on the improved farm side, and we'll see if Mark Kelsey and his International 1066 will take over the number 1 spot here in our improved farm class, as we just saw Art Williams in the slightly twisted 2 Chevrolet. An excellent run for the truck out of Pennsylvania. So we should have, I know we've got the old black Dodge of Dan Jernigan coming on back. He was our original test puller. We also have the Stampede truck of Patrick Holt should be up there as well. So we should have a couple more to go here. And we'll see if we can bring up a leaderboard here for our Pro Stock 4-wheel drive trucks here. As there we go right there, 347 and 21, 347 and 21. And we see here our improved farm side, Mark Kelsey going to take the big win here, 272 and 51. We'll take over the number 1 spot and the win here tonight, just barely, over Lawrence Heyman, 268 and 81. We'll finish up in the number 2 spot. Then we've got 246 and 60. That's the Deer Doctor. And that was Rob Bell here tonight. And then filling out the field was the Little Beef tractor of Levi Hamrick at 164 and 44. So great field of competition here. As we saw over on the 4-wheel drive side, Art Williams in that Chevrolet took over that number 1 spot here in a big way. And see if we can bring up that leaderboard for the 4-wheel drives here one more time. So we're going to change classes over on the grandstand side. So Mark Kelsey going to be our first winner of the night, as we're going to have the naturally aspirated mini rods. And what a field. We've got a whole bunch of them rascals here tonight. And they are going to put on a show as we'll get things started here with Glenn Neal with the Intimigator tractor from right here in the state of Florida. Going to be our first puller up in that class. So great competition here. We're early on here on Full Pull Live. Night number 1 here in Satsuma, Florida. Beautiful Friday night here. As we should, well, let's see here. We should have a couple more of the 4-wheel drives to go here. And we'll see if they are able to make their way up here and challenge Art Williams for that number 1 spot. Boy, that Chevrolet really put on a show here tonight. And we'll see if anybody else can challenge him here tonight. Here in our Pro Stock 4-wheel drive. Light Supers will be the next class we're going to run here on the infield track here tonight. Now this track used to be a actual quarter-mile dirt track running down here, and kind of a paperclip. They called it the clip, is what they called it. 2 drag strips and a couple hairpins at each end of it. Very tight conditions. All right, so for those folks watching on Facebook and YouTube, we're going to turn them off here after this next run. So it looks like we are going to make a change here on our 4-wheel drive side. So this might officially be it here for the 4-wheel drives here tonight. So we'll see if we can get a leaderboard up here for our 4-wheel drive competitors. As it looks like going to make a change here. But yeah, going back to this track here, Mark Kelsey, when he purchased the facility, used to run dirt races down here, and they have now more or less made it into a motorsports park down here. And next weekend, they're going to run the sand drags right here on the front stretch, side-by-side sand dragging competition, big paddle tires and everything. They're going to run here next weekend. So for those folks down here in this area, got some great motorsports action down here. But we've got a whole weekend of pulling to get through here first. Looks like we're going to bring in our small mini sled here for the naturally aspirated mini rods here tonight. So great field of those competitors here tonight. Once again, make sure you do get your picks in. Get your picks in at Full Pull Picks, the only gaming platform of tractor and truck pulling. And, sitting back home watching this action here, and be able to see if we win a little bit of cash here this weekend as we get ready to go here with our naturally aspirated mini rods. As I take a look here at our lineup here, looks like we've got about 14 entries. 14 entries here in our naturally aspirated mini rod class. So it looks like that will be officially it for the Pro Stock four-wheel drives. So if we could get a lineup here for a finishing order here for our mini or our four-wheel drives here tonight.
Yeah, got two fast outlaw pullers tonight. Again, your Pro Stock trackers. My goodness, friends, you don't even know what you're in for. And of course, the 3.0 trucks, which are huge.
Yeah, it's just about ready to roll here tonight with our first of our naturally aspirated minis. This is the Intimigator tractor for Glenn Neal from right here in Florida.
Part of our show. You see those Pro Stocks sitting out in the middle underneath the lights, looking like they're ready to play. Sure enough, they are, friends.
So very popular class down here in the state of Florida as we take a good look at that Intimigator. Now take a look at the throttle handle on this tractor. I don't know if you can see it in that view right there, but it's actually an alligator. He's got formed there, formed aluminum. As we're in, of course, gator country down here, and I got to keep looking behind me here, make sure no creatures have crawled up here behind me because they're all over the place down here. As looks like Glenn getting ready to roll here. It'll be our first puller up here. Test puller in these naturally aspirated mini rods. Very popular class down here. They run under the 2,050-pound class. As you can see, that tractor right there got a big block. So we'll see a mix of big blocks, small blocks running out here in this competition. So out of St. Cloud, Florida, Mr. Neal. We've got competitors in this class. Looks like we've got New Jersey represented. We've got Michigan, Massachusetts. We've got Maryland, Vermont. You name it, we got them. They're from all over here. We're going to start off with one of the best here from right here in the state of Florida. A good-looking Intimigator tractor. Over here on the infield side, we should have our light super competitors. Mark Kelsey with the Just Add Dirt tractor is going to be up number one here with his International 1206. And we'll see if the trailer can bring up our results from our Pro Stock four-wheel drive, our leaderboard from that class, and officially get our results here. We know that Art Williams was our winner with the Chevrolet. So there you can see Glenn Neal waiting patiently, nestled inside the roll cage there. These naturally aspirated mini rods, basically the same chassis you'd find in the blown mini rods. We're going to see a little bit later on. It's got different power plants in them. They'll weigh 2,050 pounds. There it is, our Pro Stock four-wheel drive class. So the slightly twisted truck at 347.21 will be our winner here tonight, 347 and 21. Finish it up, number two is the Ford F-250 at 325 and 33, 325.33. And that was John Edwards. Number three spot went to Randy Whiting with the Money Pit. And he was out at 321 to fill out our top three finishers in our Pro Stock four-wheel drive competition. Here is Glenn Neal out of St. Cloud, Florida. Brings out the Intimigator, our test puller here in 2,050-pound, naturally aspirated. No supercharging, no turbocharging allowed in this class. Take a look at the big carburetor sitting up on top there. Big four-barrel carburetor. So he is going to set the mark here. Glenn Neal, our first puller up, test puller here, 2,050-pound naturally aspirated mini rod class. They make a lot of noise. Let's see if we can get that horsepower to the ground. Gives those brakes a little bit of pump. Make sure there's a pedal there as we will turn them loose here tonight. The Intimigator. Good shot right there. Of course, our Full Pull Live crew. We've got multiple camera angles here tonight, bringing you the best in pulling coverage. Here we go. the Intimigator not sounding up to par here tonight. Not sounding up to par as we go back light super stock side. This beautiful 1256 up to 4 turbochargers, 6,200 pounds. Here we go. Mark Kelsey, just add dirt. Whoa! And burning off a little bit of excess alcohol here tonight. Mark Kelsey, the promoter of this event here. This is his light super. 1256. Going to do a lot more national pulling, he tells us, this year. Going to try to get to some of the bigger events on the PPL circuit as well as the NTPA side. And yeah, he's giving a big fist pump down there, so he's happy with that run. But we've got to, you talk about quality. We have got it here tonight over quantity here in light super. We've got 3 light supers here tonight. But Larry Phillips, he's in our field. We've got Ryan Henley with his 1256 out here. So we have got some excellent running tractors here. Actually, I think we've got Kenny Hale as well. I know Kenny's here. All right, so back over to the mini rod side, naturally aspirated. As we take a look at our next tractor coming up here, this is going to be the Mean Streak. This is Milton Westgate doing the driving here tonight. So just add dirt goes 372.16. 372.16 to set the mark here over on the light super stock side. All right, here we go, mini rods. All right, the Mean Streak. And the Mean Streak comes to us out of Freetown, Massachusetts. So making the long haul down here. So Milton Westgate is going to, looks like, bump the flag down here. Once again, looks like another big block there. So our second of our 2,050-pound naturally aspirated mini rods here tonight here in Satsuma, Florida, as we bring out the light trouble as Kenny Hale. Well, Ryan Henley going to be doing the driving here. The International 1256. There we see Mr. Hale out front. Beautiful. Now this is going to be a diesel tractor, 504 cubic inches in this class. Diesel alcohol, running under the 6,200 pound rule here tonight, so you can't weigh more than 6,200 pounds. Of course, pulling, the only sport where weight is an advantage. Cannot weigh more than that 6,200 pounds or any of the classes. So the light trouble here tonight, Ryan Henley. Let's see if he can bump that flag here tonight, 372.16. As we've got a tough one, 372.16, just add dirt, leads the way, that alcohol-powered tractor. So let's see if Ryan Henley can get it done here tonight. Very strong running tractor, runs on the Mid-South Circuit, one of the PPL member state organizations. Of course, owner of this tractor, Ken Hale, a long time puller. Pulled the Night Trouble tractor for so many years, and back in the old ATPA days with his smoker, and then built this light tractor not too many years ago. Here we go. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They are putting on a show here tonight, Satsuma, Florida. Woo! All right, back over the mini rod side. This is going to be secondhand smoke. Chris Graham. All right, over on our mini rod side. And he is out of Salem, New Jersey, the secondhand smoke ride. So the tractor out of New Jersey here tonight. We'll see if we can get a leaderboard here for our naturally aspirated minis here tonight. So we saw a great run there from Ryan Henley with his lightweight superstock, the diesel entry. And he laid down an excellent run. As there we see our mini rod leaderboard, the mean streak at 3:16 and 59 leads the way here. The Intimigator at 2:90 and 50 in the number 2 spot here. And we'll see where we're going to put the Chris Graham tractor, the tractor out of New Jersey, secondhand smoke that just ran. But over there on the light superstock track, our infield track here, Ryan Henley in the light trouble had to go better than 3:72.16 to take the lead here. And man, he was rolling here tonight. But we've got Larry Phillips, the crafty veteran, sitting back there. They brought one of their tractors down. Of course, they're going to be running at the National Farm Machinery Show here in just about a week's time, next Saturday afternoon in the light superstock class. They got, of course, Larry's tractor is Extremely Insane tractor, as well as his son Brandon's John Deere in the farm show there. So they were pulling last weekend down in, well, I should say where we are here. They were pulling up in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, the Southern Invitational event down there. And the Phillips had a great weekend down there, first and second both nights in the qualifying round, as well as the finals up there in Murfreesboro with their 2 tractors. But here this weekend brought the 1066 down. They're going to run just the 1 tractor, and Larry going to be in the seat here tonight. So our final light super here, and we'll see if we can get a distance here for Ryan Henley with the light trouble, because that was a good one. The diesel really put on a show here tonight in our lightweight super stock competition. Now, following these lightweight supers, we will have our mini rod, the blown mini rods, will be coming up a little bit. So good competition here tonight as we see the competitors staging back there in the staging lanes between turns 1 and 2 here of the racetrack. The old paperclip. We talk about the turns here at the racetrack, and they make for some really good staging lanes here. They, of course, widened out this front stretch here. There we see Ryan Henley after his big run here. He just gave me the thumbs up. He was happy with that one. Once again, full pull live here in beautiful Satsuma, Florida, as we've got Larry Phillips moving his way out on the track. International 1066. Going to be our final tractor here in lightweight superstock competition. And the guys from UD Motorsports there helping him out here this weekend. Larry flew down. The UD Motorsports team brought this tractor down for him. And good to see this tractor back out on the circuit. For kind of been sitting back in the shop the last couple of years. And take a look at that helmet there on Larry's. Got that beautiful painted helmet there. As he'll put on the neck brace there, all the safety equipment. But take a look at that close-up there. The mural on the side of that helmet. That is gorgeous. As Larry will get the slack out of the chain here. See if we can get a distance here for Ryan Henley with that 12:56. Larry Phillips, here we go. The Insanity. Going old school, back to Insanity here. And there's no doubt about it, fans, I think our winner here tonight is going to be Larry Phillips, just by where he is on the track. Not by a whole lot. As we're back over Mini Rod's side, we got the Copperhead of Pete Yarrington. All right, Pete Yarrington out of Elmer, New Jersey with the Copperhead. tractor. And really, the video doesn't do it justice. This has got a copper tone paint job on it. And this thing just glistens under the lights there. You really can't see it in that shot right there, kind of a copper color. There you can kind of see the mirror finish on the side of it right there on that shot. But a real good run here for Chris Graham here tonight. We'll see if, or Pete Yarrington, I should say, with the Copperhead tractor, see if he can bump the flag here. So Larry Phillips, what a great run there in light super here. We'll get some distances in here for you. Let you know where we stand. So just about the first quarter of our mini rod competition here tonight. So Pete Yarrington moves away from the sled here tonight after making his good run here in our naturally aspirated mini rod class here tonight. As we take a look at some of the folks here on the infield side of our track. Got some of the rigs parked here on the infield side as we'll bring out that decision maker mini sled out here as we will move on into our blown mini rod class, as they will be next up here, 2,050-pound class. As it looks like we've got a handful of them here tonight. Cody Singletary with the Carolina Night Train going to get us rolling here. Kevin Hill with the loose screw tractor will be number 2, and then Chase Richardson with the vibrator will be our first 3 tractors up here, and we'll see if we can get a leaderboard for our light super stock class here that just concluded. And unofficially, it does look like Larry Phillips was our winner, but it was pretty close here. As we see here on the replay, what a run there. Larry got that front end up like a duck out of water, and there you can see just carried it the whole length of the track. They're just touching ever so slightly, but at that point she was locked in and he was off to the races. As there you can see the lead marker right there. It kind of just went breezing right past it. See lots of extra room down here. Got about 400 feet to work with on this racetrack. So plenty of runoff room, but a great run there for Larry Phillips. And the Insanities, he burns off a little bit of excess alcohol. 3 turbos underneath the hood of this tractor. International 1066. As we see the replay here of the Copperhead tractor, the Pete Yarrington. Another one of the tractors out of New Jersey. All chasing that 3:16 and 59. The Main Streak of Milton Westgate. He's currently our leader. So we'll get you caught up on those distances here. Once again, Satsuma, Florida, session number 1 here. As we are just, we're just about knee deep here into our first session of competition here. So we'll be here tomorrow night as well, 6:30 start time. We'll have our countdown show at 4:30. As we'll bring in a couple guests. We had a couple more scheduled for today, but everybody kind of getting here and getting things underway, so didn't have a time to visit with us, but we'll get them tomorrow afternoon, and we'll fill up that show, the countdown show, before we get tomorrow's action underway. So as we take a look here, got our mini sled just about set up here on the infield side. The blown mini rods are ready to put on the show here tonight. They brought down the decision maker sled, Richard Love, out of Scottsdale, Pennsylvania. He's going to be our sled operator there. We got both the mini sleds on hand here tonight. So Richard Love down there is, of course, running the USA East circuit now. Richard's very busy promoting pulls and running pulls up there in the Northeast. As we are back over to our naturally aspirated mini side. On the edge, tractor Paul Dost is going to be up next here. And Paul comes to us out of Reese, Michigan. On the edge, he calls this tractor. So Paul Dost up next here. Naturally aspirated, so you will see the difference here No, actually, this is the Bad Blood. This is Milton Westgate. So we're going to jump ahead in our lineup here. This is the Bad Blood, Milton Westgate. His second tractor of the night. Currently leads the class here. Out of Freetown, Massachusetts. He leads the way here. His second entry here. So like we say, we've got a mix of small block and big block tractors. This one here looks like a small block. All right, so Bad Blood on the track right now in our naturally aspirated mini rod class here. So we got a couple of the tractors out of Freetown, Massachusetts here tonight, but looks like Milton's going to come up a little bit short to his lead distance right now of 3:16 and 59. That's what his Mean Streak tractor is going to fall short here with the Bad Blood here tonight. So 2:82 and 35 the distance, 2:82 and 35 for Milton Westgate with the Bad Blood tractor. 2:82.35, good enough right now for the number 3 spot here. As we see up on our leaderboard, the Intimigator at 2:90 and 50. So it looks like we need some distances there for secondhand smoke in the Copperhead tractors. So here we go, blown mini rods. Good look up at Cody Singletary out of Tar Heel, North Carolina. This is the Carolina Night Train, number 1, 575 cubic inches. Blown and injected engine on alcohol here. Of course, the Wild and Woolly mini rods always put on a show. Of course, Cody coming off a great 2024 campaign. Ran 2 tractors out on the circuit, put one of them into the top 5 or in the top 10 in NTPA Grand National points. Now they'll run a maximum 13-inch hit type on these tractors. And that is the lowest you will see in competition. So Cody going to back up here, make sure he's lined up nice and square to the front of that sled as our test puller here tonight. As these mini tractors producing right in the neighborhood of 3,000 horsepower nowadays. Just amazing. He'll burn about 5 to 6 gallons of alcohol on a pass here. So our test puller mini rod competition. Once again, 2,050 pounds. Here we go. All right, Cody Singletary making it rain here in Satsuma, Florida, with the Carolina Night Train here. Now, Cody told me earlier this afternoon, says doesn't think he's going to be able to do a whole lot of traveling here. We got a new baby in the family and not going to have a whole lot of time to go traveling up on the road like they did this past year. So we'll see here on the replay what the distance comes up here for Cody. Got that front end up and kind of got it dancing up and down here. And we see right about this point right here, she kind of transfers back and kind of sits there for Cody. As he will set the mark here, we'll see officially if he was happy with that distance. I'd say he probably was. Made a nice run there, and we'll get the distance in here for Cody. The Carolina Night Train, number 1. So his second tractor will be down towards the bottom of the field here as we've got the Out of Control tractor up next here. This is going to be Scott Leventure. Next in our naturally aspirated mini rod competition. Also out of Freetown, Massachusetts, a hotbed for naturally aspirated minis up there. Freetown, Massachusetts, here we go. And that's going to be a good one. Going to be challenging here for that number one spot, 3:16 and 59. Right now our high water mark in the naturally aspirated class. And Scott Leventure, a good run. The tractor out of Massachusetts here tonight. And we will see where that will put him in the competition here. So 3:07.37 for Cody Singletary, 3:07 and 37. We'll set the mark here in our blown mini rod class here tonight. As we see Kevin Hill going to be up next here with the loose screw tractor. Kevin out of the state of Vermont as well. Going to be next up in the blown class. Now we've seen from time to time Kevin has run a pair of minis. Got the Plum Nasty tractor that he runs from time to time, but this weekend here's got the loose screw on hand. So that will be our next puller up here in our blown mini rod class. So 3:07 and 37, I do believe. Nope. 3:01 and 59 the distance. 3:01 and 59 the distance for Scott Leventure, and looks like that will put him in the number 2 spot here. So real good run for the out of control tractor, as looks like his neighbor Milton Westgate with the mean streak at 3:16.59 continues to lead the way here in our naturally aspirated mini class. So we're just moving right along here. Our session number 1 competition, as we see the crewmen helping out, getting the Kevin Hill tractor fired up. Got that electric starter. We'll hook it up to the supercharger there and get that engine spinning over. So Kevin Hill out of the state of Vermont. A lot of northerners coming down to this beautiful weather down here, and we've got here in Florida. All right, so Bristol, Vermont here for Kevin Hill as he backs in. Over on the naturally aspirated side, it looks like we see Bruce Robinson, the straight shooter tractor. So probably going to go ahead here with the blown tractor first. We'll let the naturally aspirated tractor sit down there as Kevin Hill, crewman, making sure he's backed up nice and square to that weight transfer machine. You can see that supercharger hat, all that air moving down that supercharger. Of course, supercharger, nothing more than a big old air compressor. Mixing with that alcohol fuel, and like we say, about 3,000 horsepower when it's all said and done. All right, here we go. Naturally aspirated mini. The straight shooter. As he makes a nice run here tonight. So that was Bruce Robinson. Bruce Robinson, as here comes loose screw. And a little bit of, not sure what happened there at the end of the run there for Kevin Hill and the loose screw tractor. So a couple of our mini competitors running dueling minis here tonight on both our tracks here tonight. Again, Full Pull Live here in Satsuma, Florida. Way here on the distance here for Kevin Hill. Now 3:07.37 to mark the beat here. Cody Singletary with the Carolina Night Train number 1 at 3:07.37. Here's the distance for Bruce Robinson at 3:05.18. 3:05.18 will put him in the number 2 spot. So real good run there for Bruce Robinson with the straight shooter tractor. And that's a small block, we can see, judging by the headers there. So some of the small blocks mixing it up here. 3:11 and 56. So he will take over the number one spot here. Kevin Hill over on the blown side. 3:11 and 56 for Kevin Hill as we see his leading run right there. Move that weight transfer machine just a little bit further than Cody Singletary, about 5 feet. Actually 4 feet here between first and second here, as we should have Chase Richardson up next with the vibrator tractor out of Litchfield, Kentucky. Looks like we're going to go with the Flasher tractor. Got that beautiful candy apple red paint job on it. So this looks like going to be Joseph Wills. Joseph Wills. The Flasher got on the front of it there. We're going to go with the Flasher name there for Joseph Wills here. Next up in our naturally aspirated mini class here tonight, out of Maryland, well, says here out of Brandywine, Maryland, with his small block mini here, the Flasher here tonight, Joe Wills, as he makes a nice run here. Naturally aspirated class, just about halfway through the NA minis here tonight. We'll move on into our 6,200-pound two-wheel drive class up next over on the grandstand side. There will be the next class up there. And then at the conclusion of our blown mini rod class, we'll have the 5,200-pound naturally aspirated two-wheelers. Will be up next over on the infield side. So we're dueling minis, we're dueling two-wheelers here tonight in Satsuma, Florida, as we see Chase Richardson on the start line. Chase, the 2024 NTPA Grand National Champion in the two-wheel drive division. He's suffering Sanity Ride 41 Willys. Chase shares his time with the mini rod as well. And brought that down here this weekend. He's got his two-wheeler getting ready to go Friday night down at the National Farm Machinery Show. He's been accepted at that invitational event to run Friday night. Two-wheel drive class will have 2 sessions. He'll be running Friday night with that 41 Willis. So Chase Richardson and the Vibrator will be up next here as we see our leaderboard. Kevin Hill leads the way at 3:11.56. Cody Singletary with his Night Train number 1 in that number 2 spot here as we get ready to go here with Chase. Of course, Chase, a second-generation puller. His dad, Dave, a long-time puller. Used to run two-wheel drives for so many years. Actually started off years ago in the naturally aspirated two-wheel drive class and then moved on into the blower class. And once upon a time purchased Jim Brockman's Kodiak pulling team, the modified tractor from up there in New Haven, Indiana. Still continued to run the two-wheeler and then had a whole bunch there at one point where they ran a bunch of two-wheelers, had their modified tractor, then they got involved in mini rod pulling. And they kind of settled in nicely with the mini rods and their unlimited tractor. Here's our leaderboard for our naturally aspirated minis. 3:16.59 still leads the way. That's Milton Westgate, the straight shooter in the number 2 spot. That's Bruce Robinson at 3:05.18. So we've got the What a Ride of Dan DeSorsi up next here. And I do believe Dan out of Vermont. Yes, St. Albans, Vermont here for Dan DeSorsi. The What a Ride entry. And he's going to get the green flag here. 3:16.59. The mean streak, Milton Westgate. He is the man on top here. Here he goes. Oh, had the weight set perfectly on the What a Ride entry. as we see Chase Richardson backing in here with the vibrator tractor here in our blown mini rod class. As we see the winner of our light super stock class, Larry Phillips, down there helping him. There we see Dad David backing in here. So up next here, 3:11.56 is what Chase has got to beat here, as we'll take Dan DeSorsi off the track here after his run with the What a Ride entry. That's going to be close to being that number one spot. But here we go, the vibrator. And Chase Richardson. Let's see if he can get all that horsepower to the ground. All right, so Chase Richardson and the vibrator tractor. Now, looked like on the replay there, that tractor kind of fighting him a little bit, wanted to go to that right side, as we see Dan DeSorsi with a great run. We'll take over that number two spot here at 3:08.77. So real good run there for Dan DeSorsi. Will put him number two behind our leader, Milton Westgate, with the mean streak. So the Northerners coming down here, and they're putting on a show here in our naturally aspirated mini rod class here tonight. So Milton Westgate at 3:16.59 as we see the Richardson crew now checking things out. Like we said on Chase's run there, we'll see here on the replay, was fighting it, going to that right-hand side, it seemed like. And as we see at the hit of the throttle there, Chase getting that front end up just a little bit. Now started to bounce a little bit there. Right there, I say I wanted just to pull to that right side and seemed to be fighting it. And there again, we see it wanting to go there to the right side. So definitely not what Chase was looking for here with the vibrator tractor here tonight in our blown mini rod class. As we'll get a distance in here for Chase Richardson. So Dick Storhalter, a longtime veteran in mini competition, he'll be up next. And then we've got Cody Singletary coming on back with his second entry here tonight in our blown mini class. So we've still got about a handful of tractors left to go over on the naturally aspirated mini side. As we've got, well, a whole bunch of them here tonight. I think 14 had signed in for competition. So a very, very tight class of competitors here in our naturally aspirated class. The blown or the big block tractors and the small block tractors, mixed them together here, and they are putting on a show here tonight for these fans here in Satsuma, Florida. We'll start to fill in that grandstand. Still arriving here tonight. Of course, Friday night, 6:30. A lot of folks getting out of work and making their way here to the event here in Satsuma. As we see down there at the starting line, not a whole lot of action going on right now at the moment. Of course, we'll get you caught up here. We'll need a distance there for Chase Richardson with the vibrator tractor. We know that Kevin Hill leads the way at 3:11.56. As there's the distance, 2:53.99 for Chase. So put him in the number 3 spot here, 2:53.99. So Cody Singletary sits in that number 2 spot at 3:07.37. As looks like we've got our next naturally aspirated mini coming up here. Should be the Sabotage and John Graham. Now we can see on this tractor here, going to change things up a little bit. Doesn't have those 18.4, 16.1 tires on the back. He's got the smaller tires here, John Graham, out of Salem, New Jersey. Big block entry here. Calls it Sabotage. Will be followed by Brandon Acey with the Good Enough tractor. So the mean streak in Milton Westgate got to dodge a couple more bullets here. Take home the big win here, night number 1 here in Satsuma, Florida. And we'll see how the smaller tire mini is going to do here tonight in our naturally aspirated class. 2,050 pounds. All right, slack out of the chain. Here we go. Our next tractor out of New Jersey, Sabotage. Uh-oh. And that tractor, he's having all kinds of problems down there. And yeah, he just dug himself a hole down there. Tough break there for the Sabotage tractor. Come all the way down from New Jersey, and not sure exactly what the problem is. It looks like the official's asking him. He does have another attempt here. All right, looks like we're ready to go back. Mini rod, blown side. Dick Stowhalter. All right, the veteran, Dick Stowhalter, and the never put a name on his mini tractors. And it looks like going to stick with that tradition here once again here for Dick Stowhalter. I do believe this tractor, an old Slaw chassis mini that Dick has been running here out on the circuit. You see that forward design that the Slaw family has made so popular in the mini class. Of course, Dick out of Waldron, Michigan. The Wolverine coming down here to enjoy the nice weather here. So we'll see what the distance comes up here for Dick Stowhalter. Many-time NTPA Region 2 competitor. And good to see him down here in Satsuma. So we are down to one over on the blown mini rod side. Cody Singletary currently holds down the number 2 spot. There we see Dick. Good look at him without his helmet on. So Cody Singletary, see if he can, well, Dick Stowhalter, a nice run there, 285 and 95, 285 and 95. We'll put him in the number 3 spot here. So Cody holding down number 3 right now, and like nothing better than find another 4 feet, take over the win here, and take the big win, I should say. So trouble there for John Graham. Now, every competitor has 2 attempts to make a measurable distance if you don't get past that 100-foot mark. And we saw that John did not make it past that point, but he's got some issues down there. He gave the cutoff sign there, so I don't think he's going to be coming on back here. So Brandon Ace with his good enough tractor should be up next here. As we'll check our lineup here. So the good enough ride from right here in Florida. See some of the folks here on the infield side. Our track crew working this track here tonight. Just with the mix of Georgia clay in here, making for a real good track here this weekend. So we'll see here if we can get a leaderboard here for our naturally aspirated mini class. Just to give you an update where we are. The mean streak, once again, he's out front there at 3:16.59, and that is Milton Westgate. What a Ride sits in the number 2 spot at 3:08.77. That was Dan DeSorsi. And then the straight shooter at 3:05.18, Bruce Robinson. Our top 3 in our naturally aspirated mini class. So there is our mini rod, blown mini rod leaderboard there. So we'll put Dick Stowhalter in that number 3 spot at 285.95 with 1 to go here. And Cody Singletary, like nothing better, take home the big win here. This will be the Carolina Night Train number 2. Cody out of Tar Heel, North Carolina. Got an excavating business he runs back there in Tar Heel, North Carolina. So he ran real hard last year out on the Grand National Circuit. And was able to get himself into the top 10 in points. Very tough feat. Of course, the mini class is what we saw with the two-wheel drives this past summer, the amount of entries, but the same with the minis. I think they averaged right around that 18 to 20 mark at all their events throughout the summer. And some of the events, like Bowling Green, he had upwards of 50 tractors in a class, so very, very tough to put a vehicle in the top 10 in the Grand National points. And Cody's doing just that here this past year out on the NTPA Grand National Circuit. As we go back to the start line here in our naturally aspirated mini class, as we've got Brandon Asay with his good enough ride. Well, we got Cody Singletary. He's fired up down there too. So we'll see who we're going to run here first, as we've got the night train number 2. Get that slack out of the chain. No jerk starts in pulling, fans. You must start with a tight hitch. Cody Singletary. As a rooster tail of dirt rains its way back down here, and we will see, did Cody do it here tonight? Back over the NA Mini Rods. Kind of zigzagging his way down the track here, Brandon Asay with the good enough tractor. So it looks like we're starting to wind down the NA Mini Rods as well. We've got just a couple more to go here. But that will conclude action over on the infield side here, the Lone Mini Rod class, 2,050-pound class. As we'll get the distance in here for Cody Singletary, his second tractor of the night. Kevin Hill holding on to that number 1 spot, 3:11 and 56. And we will see if Cody was able to stretch it out a little bit further here. So we're going to park that mini rod sled, 294 and 30. So Cody will take over the number 3 spot with that run, 294 and 30. So congratulations, Kevin Hill, going to be our big winner here tonight with the loose screw tractor out of Vermont at 3:11 and 56. Take the big win. So congratulations to the Hill crew. And we'll have Cody Singletary. We'll get you the final results here of our 2,050-pound blown mini rod class here tonight. As Cody Singletary will finish up number 2, number 3. Dick Storhalter will go number 4, and then Chase Richardson will round out our top 5 finishers here tonight with the vibrator tractor. As we'll take the Decision Maker mini sled off the track here tonight and bring back in the big sled here for our 5,200-pound two-wheel drive class. Now this will be the naturally aspirated trucks will be up next. These trucks put on a really good show. We've got trucks from down here in Florida, Georgia, also some competitors from up in Ohio as well, Illinois. So it should be a really good class here. Naturally aspirated two-wheel drives, 5,200 pounds, maximum weight of those trucks. And then on the other track here at the conclusion of our mini rod class, we will have the blown two-wheel drive. So we've got 3 of those here tonight. But first things first, we've got a couple more of the naturally aspirated minis to run here tonight. We'll see if we can get a distance for Brandon Asay with the good enough tractor. That was our last entry over there on the grandstand side here in Satsuma, Florida. And there we take a look at that old school Chevrolet, the Wild Hog, here in naturally aspirated two-wheel drive competition. This is going to be Howell Clements 1968 Chevy C10. Going to be our test puller. As you can see, got the Leica rock on the front, specifying Chevrolet horsepower here. So 244 and 46. 244 and 46 the distance for Brandon Asay with the good enough ride. So 244 and 46 here. As we should have Dave Dixon and Dale Runkle, our 2 final competitors here So we're ready to go. 5,200-pound two-wheel drive pulling here. We've got Howell Clements with the 68 Chevy. He calls the Wild Hog. Here we go. All right, so looks like out of Georgia, the 68 Chevrolet C10 will set the mark here. Should be Noel Clements doing the driving here with that 68 Chevrolet. Oh, straighten up ride. That should be Dave Dixon. I do believe Dave Dixon with the straighten up tractor. We saw a little bit of smoke emulating off that small block. All right, so good run for the Wild Hog here tonight in two-wheel drive competition as he'll get things started here. The Wild Hog out of Georgia. Kind of takes you back to the early days of a two-wheel drive competition where they put the supercharger up on top. So there we see the straighten up tractor. As Dave Dixon, well, he got out, took his helmet, and said, hey, I'm heading back toward the start line here, so possibly he might have another ride here a little bit later on in our program. So looks like we should have just one more to go in our naturally aspirated mini side. There we go, old school Chevrolet back over on the two-wheel drive side. As we've got Tim Bowen in the backdraft truck up next here. One of our trucks out of the state of Ohio, 1951 Chevrolet. He calls the backdraft. Tim Bowen, very tough running truck right here.
Hey, got another question for you, fans. Who was here last year? Raise your hand. I didn't come back from last year. You still having a good time? Yeah, good to see you. Welcome back. We're glad you be here.
So we'll see if we can get a distance here for Howell Clements with the Wild Hog truck. Remember, he was our test puller in the class. As Tim Bowen up next here out of the state of Ohio. Liberty Center, Ohio. He calls home. Leaning on her here, the 51 Chevrolet of Tim Bowen. We are early in our 5,200-pound naturally aspirated two-wheel drive class. See the DOT tires on the back of that truck. Now, the first truck we saw had cut tires on the back, so some of the southern trucks here, they run with the cut tires. And everybody just kind of runs what rules they run back at home, and that seems to be the hot setup here. But run really competitive together, all these different organizations, these competitors coming together. So we should have one more naturally aspirated mini over on the grandstand side here. Dale Runkle with his mini rod. Now, next up on the two-wheel drive side, we should have Randy Ross with his 97 Chevrolet. Will be up next here. Another one of the Georgia trucks here. So kind of working our way through the competition here tonight. Night number one here in Satsuma, Florida.
Grandstand side, we're in the big sled
And we're going to be back here in action tomorrow night for session number 2. 6:30 start time. Once again, get things right and rolling. Now remember tonight, right at 8 o'clock, that'll be 8 o'clock Eastern time, over here on the infield side, about 10 minutes. So looks like at the conclusion of this two-wheel drive class, we're going to run that two-wheel drive class, and then we're going to go into the outlaw competition. The outlaw pullers sanctioned a couple classes here tonight. The 3.0 diesel truck class, the limited pro diesel truck class, and then they will also sanction the 5.0 pro stocks here tonight. So they are going to run those two classes here at 8 o'clock over here on the infield side. So ready for that action. So here comes the 97 Chevrolet, making its way to the starting line here in a naturally aspirated two-wheel drive competition. And looks like the sled has disappeared over there on the grandstand side, so I would have to say maybe we are done with the mini rods over there. And we take a look at the 97 Chevrolet, Randy Ross out of Georgia. 1997 Chevrolet. Doesn't have a name on the side of it there just yet. We'll kind of a low rider design. You see, you got the cut tires on the back of them, and that signifies the trucks that run down here in the south. You see some of the northern trucks that run out of Ohio there had the DOT tires on the back. And yeah, it looks like we're going to bring in the Beck's hybrid sled over there to the grandstand side. So we're going back big stuff. So that will conclude the minis here tonight. We'll get the rundown of the naturally aspirated minis here tonight, our top 5 finishers. And we'll see if we can get some distances here for our two-wheel drives. We're 3 deep here. We've already seen Howell Clemens, Tim Bowen, and now Randy Ross with his black Chevrolet. Whoa, look out, look out. Got her sideways. Well, he did the smart thing. He shut her down. That truck just shot across the track there. Had to get on the binders, bring it back around, but at that point he says, we're not going to risk it going out of bounds here tonight. We're going to cut our losses here tonight. So Randy Ross out of Georgia with the 97 Chevrolet. We'll call it the Black Stallion. I don't know. We'll make something up for him. So naturally aspirated two-wheel drives here tonight, and Randy making his way off the track here tonight. So Tate Woods with the Shakin' Tater. Going to be our next truck up here in naturally aspirated two-wheel drive. Then we've got the Buckeye Bowtie and Wayne Van Brimmer. And Dustin Holmes with the 67 Chevrolet. Our next 3 up here in Satsuma, Florida. The Just Add Dirt Motorsports Park here for session number 1. As we get ready to roll here on the grandstand side with our blown two-wheel drive trucks. Then we've got the V8 hot rod tractors and the Super Farms will be over there. Our 2 final classes. So Tate Woods with the Shakin' Tater going to be up next here. We'll see if we can get a leaderboard for our two-wheel drive naturally aspirated class here. We'll see where everybody shakes out. I think Tim Bowen unofficially is our leader right now. The truck out of Ohio. So Tate Woods and the Shakin' Tater. Another one of the good-looking trucks here out of the south. See the cut tires on the back. Tate comes out of Weirsdale, Florida with the Shakin' Tater truck. And do believe they've also got the Boss Man truck a little bit further down in the field here. So a couple of tough running trucks out of Florida. First up, the Shakin' Tater and Tate Woods. We'll get you that mark to beat here as quickly as we can. All right, track is clear. Starts applying that horsepower. Uh-oh, look out. Hooked off to the right side, had to get on the brakes, brought it back around. That's how you steer them. You get that front end up in the air, run the individual rear brakes on these trucks, and bring it back around. But at that point, killed a lot of that momentum. As you saw that weight transfer machine, the on-the-mark sled, as that weight box making its way up the rails. Now, no matter how fast or how slow a pulling vehicle goes down the track, that weight box will be in the same spot on the sled at that same point on the track, each and every vehicle. So the judge and the jury of the sport of pulling that weight transfer machine. And Mark Bingham out of the state of Ohio. See his sleds on the NTPA Grand National Circuit from time to time. I know we've seen over there in a couple of the events, Canton, Ohio, and Fort Recovery over the last couple years. So the Shakin' Tater, looks like we're going to get a tow vehicle to get him off the track here tonight after his run. So a couple wild runs here for the two-wheel drive class as these competitors getting a little bit out of shape here. And we'll see if we can get a leaderboard here for our two-wheel drives, see where we are at. Here we go. So the backdraft leads the way at 282 and 13. The truck out of Ohio. 255 and 56 for Howell Clements. That was our test puller. As we've got the Buckeye Bowtie, number 2, backing in here. Another one of those tough running trucks out of Ohio. This is Wayne Van Brimmer. Now his good buddy, Tim Bowen, he sits out at 282.13, leads the way here. And Wayne, say out of the state of Ohio. '15 Chevrolet. As he makes sure he's lined up nice and square here. So the 51 Chevy leads the way. The backdraft, Tim Bowen, 282 and 13. That is the mark to beat here. And we've still got half a class to go here. It looks like we're going to fire up the first of our blown two-wheel drives over on the grandstand side here tonight. So if you like two-wheelers, we've got them in bunches here tonight. We've got blown on the supercharged trucks on the grandstand side and naturally aspirated here on the infield track. As we get ready to go, the Buckeye Bowtie and Wayne Van Brimmer. Now these are the trucks that run the DOT tires on the back, not the cut tires like we've seen on some of these Southern trucks. All right, Ian Ericker over on the two-wheel drive side, the blown side. Got to be our test hook over there. Super modified two-wheel drives. All right. Looks like we're going to go NA side first. Here comes Buckeye Bowtie, number 2. and really started applying that horsepower right away and kind of dug a hole down there. As there we go back over to the Supermod two-wheel drive side. Going to be Ian Ericker. He's also got a modified tractor he's going to run a little bit later on here tonight as well. Doing double duty here tonight. Two-wheel drive side. Well, he's got the Village Idiots on the side of it there. Looks to be about a 72 Chevrolet there. The Village Idiots pulling team. As we see distance here for the Buckeye bow tie. Not what he was looking for. 228 and 77. 228 and 77. So he's going to be back in the pack here. Number 4 spot here as we'll take a look here at the Ian Ericker truck. The 72 Chevy bouncing his way down there, and you see a little bit of smoke there out of the pipes. The cylinder's not firing there, but a real good run here to start the class. Yeah, we'll see if he's going to be happy with that one. 247.52 the distance. 247 and 52. So we'll see whether or not he's going to take that distance here tonight. As we've got the Hog Waller truck up next here. It's going to be Dustin Holmes here, 1967 Chevrolet. So next up here in our naturally aspirated two-wheel drive class. All chasing that 51 Chevrolet. So Dustin Holmes, Leesburg, Florida, with his 67 Chevrolet. He calls the Hog Waller. We're not done yet. We've still got a few more trucks to go. The backdraft, Tim Bowen, set that mark at 282 and 13. So the 67 Chevy going to come up a little bit short here. Kind of interesting here. Interesting to note whether or not the track has changed that much, because we've really seen the last few tractors, or trucks, I should say, we saw a couple go out of shape down there, and then the last two just really not able to get a hold of the track here. And you can see in front of that buckboard, they are kicking up quite a bit of dirt. You put that in front of that buckboard, you got to pull that as well as the weight in the sled. So Dustin Holmes going to come off the track here after he makes his run here tonight. We'll get the distance in here for Dustin as we're going to go back blown two-wheel drive here, as we've got a good-looking Chevy S10. Looks like an old Humpco chassis right there, the Humpco Chevrolet S10. As this is going to be Casey Wolf and his Chevy S10. So Casey comes to us out of East Hampton, Connecticut, with the Chevy S10 truck. As we take a look here on the replay of Dustin Holmes and his Hog Waller Jr. truck, You can see right there, really just got hooked into the track there. Didn't get that front end up like he would like, I'm sure. In two-wheel drive competition, that's the tough part. You got to guess. Good enough for number 2 here. 257 and 59. 257 and 59 for Dustin here tonight as we are ready to roll here with our next supercharged two-wheel drive. As this is Casey Wolf in his Chevy S10 out of Connecticut. Not a whole lot of trucks in Connecticut. This is one of the best. All right, road rage, he calls it. You see Skinner Enterprises on the side of it. Yeah, I think this truck originally came from Davey Skinner out there in the state of Kentucky. And Casey, the new owner, is we've got another Chevrolet back on the start line over here on the naturally aspirated side. This is going to be Johnny Brown in his 87 Chevy. Calls it hog wild. Oh, he's got a good run going here. Got that front end up. So 1987 Chevy, Johnny Brown. And the Hog Wild truck. So Casey Wolf at 302 and 97. 302 and 97. That should put him in the number 1 spot here. 302 and 97. Ian Ericker went 247.52 with his two-wheel drive out there. So, yeah, that should put Casey Wolf in that number 1 spot here as Johnny Brown goes 282 and 84. And that is going to be our new leader by not much. Wow. 282 and 84. He had to beat 282 and 13. And by 7/10 will take over the number 1 spot by that much. So the backdraft, that'll put him in the number 2 spot there, 282-13. We're not done. Yeah, we got a couple more here to go. The Boss Man truck will be up next here. So close competition here in our two-wheel drive naturally aspirated trucks here. So Johnny Brown takes over the number 1 spot at 282 and 84 here in our competition here as we move along here in our super modified two-wheel drive side. As we just saw Casey Wolf take over the number 1 spot with his Chevy S10, the Road Rage truck here tonight at 302.97. So 1 to go over on the two-wheel drive blown side, and that'll be Dale Forrester out of Scotland, Pennsylvania, with his turn back the clock entry. We'll be up next here. Once again, Dan Mayer joining you here live from Satsuma, Florida here, just south, about 45, 50 minutes south of Jacksonville. Nestled here between Jacksonville and Orlando. Fans coming out, a beautiful Friday night here. We're about low 60s, I think, the last time I checked my temperature here. Beautiful night for pulling action. As we've got another tough one backing in here over on the naturally aspirated two-wheel drive side, that Boss Man truck. Now this is Matt Woods. So we are starting to wind things down here in our two-wheel drive side. 49 Chevrolet. He calls the Boss Man. This is Matt Woods. Another one of the Florida trucks here. So we just saw Johnny Brown go into that number 1 spot. Great run of 282. The truck out of Georgia. Here, let's see what the truck from the home state of Florida. Here we go. 49 Chevrolet. Zigzagging his way down the track here. And let's see where the boss man's going to end up. So right now, 282.84 lead distance, 282.13, number 2, the backdraft, and Tim Bowen. So we'll see where we're going to park Matt Woods and the boss man truck out of Florida. Take a look at this ride right here. Dale Forrester, Scotland, Pennsylvania. And boy, this truck takes you back. The early days of two-wheel drive. He calls it turn back the clock. Old school Ford. Dale Forrester. Oh yeah, look at that front end hopping already. Even got the keg in the back. Yeah, that takes you back, way back, the early days of two-wheel drive with the wooden bed and the keg in the back for your fuel tank. And Dale Forrester, good run there for the old Ford. So two-wheel drive trucks putting on a show here. 1978 Ford, turn back the clock. You see the Forrester Lincoln Mercury on the side there, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, right off there, I-81. Southern part of the Keystone State here. And we'll get the distance in here for Dale. Now 302.97, Casey Wolf, our leader in this class with the Road Rage Chevy S10. And we will see here, we can get a distance here for Matt Woods with the Boss Man truck. There's turn back the clock, 299 and 77. So a real good run there, 299 and 77, just a couple feet behind the Road Rage. And Casey Wolf, so it looks like all right. Well, they're telling us Ian Ericker was our winner here tonight. We had a distance of 247 for him, but looks like that was not correct here. So 307 and change. We'll take the win here. Casey Wolf will finish up number 2 at 302.97, and then Dale Forrester will round out our finishers here at 299 and 77. So back over here, two-wheel drive side, we got the Wild Hog coming on back. This is Howell Clements. So he was our test puller. He turned down that run of 255 and change. So looks like our final hook here in the naturally aspirated two-wheel drives, the Wild Hog. Oh, got off to the right side. Second or third truck we've seen in this class get over to that right side here. Howell out of Georgia. So that looks like going to conclude the class here tonight. We'll get all our finishers sorted out here, give you our top 5 finishers for the 5,200 pound at naturally aspirated two-wheel drive classes. We've got the hot rods waiting in the wings here over on the grandstand side. Take a look at some of these rigs. Very popular down here in the state of Florida. We take a look at that Farm All 400. So 271.56, 271 and 56. And that'll move him up a little bit in the standings there, put him in that number 3 spot. 271 and 56 for Howell Clements with the Wild Hog truck. So there you can see our top finishers here in two-wheel drive. 282.84 will take the win. And that will be Johnny Brown, the Hog Wild. The backdraft will finish up the number 2 spot. That's Tim Bowen with the backdraft. We see Howell Clements at 271.56 with the Wild Hog truck. We'll finish up in the number 3 spot. The 4th spot will go to the boss man, the 49 Chevrolet, Matt Woods. Then rounding out the top 5 was the Hogwaller, and that was Dustin Holmes. So great class of competition here tonight. The 5,200-pound naturally aspirated two-wheel drives as they put on a show here tonight as we see the Hog Wild moving off the track. So we'll change things up. Our sled over there on the marked sled as we will get ready to roll here with our 2 outlaw classes are going to be up next here over here on the infield side. So 2 sanctioned classes here with the outlaws. And they are going to be up next. Now over here on the grandstand side, we are going to go ahead and run the V8 tractors. Leslie Pitts and Lawrence Heyman are first 2 entries in that class. So the V8 Hot Rods will be up next here. So we'll get our weight transfer machine all changed up here. We see some of the Hardy fans coming out here to Satsuma, Florida, as we hear some of the multi-engine modifieds warming up back in the pit area. The fans are back there looking at these vehicles up close and personal there. We see we've got the moving the weights around. So we'll get these sleds changed up here and we'll get right back at the action here. We'll start with the 8,000-pound limited pro stock diesel trucks. So causing trouble we see coming out here on the track right now. A truck we've seen many different events throughout 2024. Going to come out and run here 8,000-pound limited pro stock diesel truck competition here. 1 single turbocharger, 460 cubic inches underneath the hood of these trucks. We've also got the V8 Hot Rods moving out on the track as well. A very popular class down here in the state of Florida. So on the diesel trucks, 158 inches wheelbase for these trucks. They'll run a 26-inch hitch height on them. Cannot weigh more than 8,000 pounds. We talked about the turbocharger. Can run an intercooler. Got to run the DOT approved street tires on them. So here we go. Hook number 1, causing trouble. So the Extra G Performance Chevrolet makes his run here. First truck up here, test puller. Just waiting on our sheet here for the Outlaw competitors as we've got our first V8 Hot Rod on the starting line here. This is going to be Leslie Pitts and this Alice Chalmers tractor. This is a good runner from here in Florida. Not the run Leslie looking for here tonight. First one up here in our V8 Hot Rod competition. Leslie out of Seville, Florida with his D17 Alice Chalmers. .521 cubic inch big block Chevrolet for power on that D17. The Outlaw Alice. Good looking ride right there. So going to get us started here in our V8 hot rod class here tonight. Takes you back to the early days of the sport of modified pulling. So Leslie Pitts and his Outlaw Alice D17 will get the distance in there for him. So once again, the two classes you're going to see next up over on the infield side will be sanctioned under the Outlaw circuit. The Outlaw Truck and Tractor Pullers Association. We talked to Ron Stone on our countdown show a little bit earlier here tonight. Ron telling us about all the things going on the Outlaw circuit here as we see the Causing Trouble Chevrolet making his run here tonight. The Exergy Performance ride. So we'll get the distance in there as we see some of the folks enjoying the pull-in action here tonight. Know it's going to get a little bit cool here tonight, so we're going to try to keep the show moving as quickly as possible here. Get the fans in and give them a great show and send them on their way. Temperatures this afternoon up near 80 and kind of falls down through the night here. Now we've got the Gunslinger ride up next here. Very tough running truck out of the state of Kentucky. This truck runs quite a bit with the TNT circuit up there in the state of Kentucky. So the Ford Super Duty, the Gunslinger, on the starting line here. That's why that truck right there at the top of the heap in TNT competition, he comes down here to Florida and says, hey, I want to show you what I've got. Of course, we saw a lot of these trucks if you were able to join us on the Diesels and Dark Corners event we covered down there in Georgia. Because we had about 70 or 75 of these limited pro trucks down there, the best of the best, battling it out down there. So Lawrence Heyman should be up next here in our competition here. As Lawrence Heyman will be next up here with his Farmall. Lawrence Pitts, our first puller out with the Outlaw Alice. And we'll see what distance he laid down here. Of course, as our test puller, has that option to take or turn it down. So Lawrence Heyman and his Farmall entry here. Dollars and no cents. And a good run for the Farmall right there as he will take over that number one spot. Really kept the momentum going. You see the low slung roll cage on this truck or tractor. And yeah, the fans cheering him on. Know that he did take over that number one spot here. We'll tell you by how much. So $299.90 for Lawrence, $299.90, $299.90 for Lawrence Heyman. Here in our V8 tractor class here tonight, it looks like we've got our next of the Limited Pro diesel trucks ready to go here. And I do believe all chasing that gunslinger here tonight. As once again here in Satsuma, Florida. There we see the leaderboard there at $299.90. Lawrence Heyman with the dollars and no cents ride. The Outlaw Alice sits in the number 2 spot at $246 and $41. $246 and $41. So the kitchen maid, Betty Miller, will be up next in our V8 Hot Rod class. As it looks like we're going to move ahead here with our next Limited Pro diesel truck. And I do believe all chasing the gunslinger right now, as we've got the Dodge moving in right now. So it looks like we've got 10 of the V8 tractors here tonight, 10 of the V8s in our competition here tonight. All right, so we see the Dodge here, Limited Pro diesel truck. Hook number 3 here, and we will follow with the 5.0 Pro Stock tractors. These 2 classes sanctioned by the Outlaw Circuit. We see moving that sled around a little bit here. The diesel truck class, of course, you can move that sled anywhere you want between the white lines down there. There's an orange cone back there. You see some of the competitors back there. Probably next up, there's the white line, and they will put that cone on the line where they want to start out from. You can see we're a little bit off the right-hand chalk line here. About split the middle of the track and the right side. So next up here in our Limited Pro diesel truck competition. Digs are down in those DOT tires. So we got an aggressive looking tire on there. All right, back to the V8s. We've got Betty Miller, the kitchen maid, and she's already underway here. That's going to do it here for the kitchen maid here tonight. A tough break, as that is Betty Miller out of Camp Point, Illinois here tonight in our V8 Hot Rod class here tonight. So Betty Miller just not able to get that tractor to hook up here. That was a Oliver, well, that was a Super 88 Oliver out there, painted blue. So we'll move the sled back to the start line here once again. Satsuma, Florida, session number 1 here. Full Pull Live. Make sure you do get your picks in. Check out Full Pull Picks. Got, of course, the modified tractors, the 5.0 Pro Stocks yet to run. See if you can pick the winner here tonight. So next, our Limited Pro diesel trucks making their way to the start line here. So last couple Limited Pro trucks running over on that right-hand sideline here. We'll get a distance in here for Betty Miller with her KitchenMaid tractor. All chasing Lawrence Heyman over on the V8 side at 299 and 90. 299 and 90. So you see some of the V8 hot rods back there. We got an Oliver, Cockshut. Another Alice sitting back there. All right, so here we go. 249.89 for Betty. 249.89. As we get ready to go here, making trouble. So Damon Winland and the Making Trouble truck here makes his run here tonight. So Damon Winland over here on Limited Pro Stock Diesel truck side. As we got the Oliver up next here. On our V8 tractor side, this is going to be Anthony Hoisington and the Super 88 Oliver. Our next puller up here. Out of Mount Dora here. Super 88 Oliver. I do believe that is Mount Dora, Florida. So going to be followed by Robert Keller, and then we've got Jacob Asay. The Asay boys going to have both of their tractors here tonight. They're down a little bit further in the field. So the Super 88 Oliver here. 299.90. Lawrence Heyman, our leader, way out front at 299 and 90. All right, the red-headed stepchild and Anthony Hoisington. So the Super 88 Oliver, as we see the farm truck backing in, Limited Pro Diesel truck side. Of course, this truck finished out a big 2024 Diesels and Dark Corners. Took home the big win down there. And this is Xander Lee out of Houston, Texas. And his tough running farm truck, he was the big winner, Diesels and Dark Corners Saturday night. He took home that championship belt. Now Xander was so fired up after that big win, he went out to California the next week and ran out there at the Madeira event out there. So really put a lot of miles on this truck here last year. Let's see if he can take over that number one spot here tonight. Xander Lee, that farm truck out of Texas. when you got something working for you, you stick with it. And Xander really flexing his muscle here tonight. The farm truck. And we'll see if he took over that number 1 spot here tonight. A good run here in our 8,000-pound limited pro diesel truck competition. So we're just about the halfway point through our V8 hot rod tractor class here tonight. And we've still got Lawrence Heyman with the dollars and no cents. The farm all leading the way here as we'll get the distance here for Xander Lee and the farm truck. 3:57.21, not going to be enough here to take over that number 1 spot. 3:57.21 for Xander Lee. So number 2 spot there, the gunslinger out front, 3:61.78. So just about 4 feet behind here in our limited pro diesel truck competition. Couple more to go here before we call it a class, as it looks like we've got our next V8 hot rod on the start line here. As this is going to be, looks like, that's definitely not the cock shut. So I'm going to have to say, we'll take a look here at our lineup. Yeah, that looks like the Misfit tractor. Oliver 77 here. This is going to be Brandon Acey out of Mount Dora, Florida. The Misfit, he calls it. And look at them headers out the side. Yeah. And the Misfit making his way down the track here. Take a look at the headers. Poking out the side there. The Misfit tractor here tonight. So let's see here on our lineup here. We've got the Oliver. I'm going to say the Oliver. This is the old man tractor. Yeah, that's the old man tractor. Oliver 7070. Jacob Acey there, 266 and 75, 266 and 75. For the tractor out of Mount Dora, Florida. Got a couple of them here, the Acey brothers. Brandon will be up next with the Misfit tractor. So we've still got Robert Kelly back there with his cockshut 40. He was supposed to be in the lineup there. So there we see the common hooker, Chuck Dutter. Another guy that gets around all the circuits out there with his Chevrolet. Next up here, Limited Pro Diesel Trucks. We've only got a couple more to go. All right, Chuck's got her running. The common hooker. Got to get into that 360 range if you want to play hardball here tonight. 361 leads the way here. We just saw Xander Lee come up short at 357. Let's see what Chuck Dutter's got. As we got Jacob Acey at 266.75, and there we see the distance for the common hooker, 351 and 22. 351 and 22. Put him in the number 3 spot here. So we are down to 1 here in our Limited Pro Diesel Truck class. All chasing that gunslinger here tonight. So we've got the Peacemaker to take us home here. Going to be Zach Glack in our final truck here. There's that cockshut we were talking about. This is Robert Kelly and his cockshut 40. Of course, the cockshut, the Canadian Oliver. Uh-oh. Up against the rev limiter here. Out of DeLand, Florida. That cockshut 40 not running right here tonight for Robert Kelly as he's going to come up way short. So not the night that Robert Kelly was looking for, just not running right there, that cockshut. Actually, looks like a cockshut 50 there. They got the 50 on the side of it. Got her listed as a 40, but the man from DeLand, Florida, not going to get it done here tonight. Of course, DeLand, Florida, any of you fans of the Bob and Tom show know that DeLand, Florida is near the sea, but yeah, that's pretty bad. All right, here we go. Final truck here in our Limited Pro Diesel truck class here tonight. And it's going to be Mr. Glacken, Zach Glacken, our final truck here. The Peacemaker Dodge. Final truck, the Limited Pro Diesel truck class. We've got the 5.0 Pro Stocks are next here on the docket. Nice run there for the Gunslinger, or I should say the Peacemaker. As we see here on the replay, Zach Glack and the Peacemaker, 3:37 and 25. The distance, 3:37 and 25 here tonight. So 361.78. The Gunslinger team going to be the big winners here tonight. As we go back here to our hot rod tractors, the V8. Is this going to be Brandon Asay with his Oliver 77, the Misfit, he calls it. 299 and 90. What do you got to beat? 299 and 90. And all kinds of sideways there for the Oliver here tonight. As we hear some of the big modifieds warming up in the back here as we get the sled ready for our 5.0 Pro Stock class coming up next here. So all kinds of sideways there for Brandon Asay with the Misfit tractor. So Zach Blacken there out of Glencoe, Kentucky. Our final truck in our Limited Pro Diesel truck class. As we see, we're getting that sled changed up here. Get ready to go for the next class up here. Going to be the 5.0 Pro Stocks. And what a field we have got assembled. We take a look at the Massey 44 tractor. This is going to be Virgil Gooding. So congratulations, Bo Carey. He is our winner of our 3.0 diesel truck class here tonight. Bo out of Wilmore, Kentucky takes the big win with the Gunslinger as we see Brandon Asay on our replay here. 169-37. All kinds of squirrely out there. 169-37. So there we see our leaderboard, still 299-90. Lawrence Heyman, since the beginning of the class, hook number 2 with his dollars and no cents as we take a look at the fans here in Satsuma, Florida, Friday night. There's a great field of the 5.0 Pro Stocks waiting back there, ready to go. So here comes Virgil Gooding in his 1948 Massey Harris tractor, the Massey 44. So he's got Danny Boy 3 on there. So it looks like 3 to go here. 3 to go in our V8 Hot Rod class. As Virgil Gooding looks to go better than 299-90 to take home the win here. Well, actually the lead right now, as we've got Tucker Keller and then John Nicole, our 2 final competitors here after the Massey. Danny Boy, number 3. As we see a nice shot of that Massey 44 hood. It's symbolic of the Wayne Sullivan Massey Harris 444 hood that he runs on the Kentucky and Modified. But Virgil, he's sitting there. He's all calm, cool, ready to go. And track crew finishing up just a little bit of their final prep work here before we turn them loose here tonight. So Danny Boy, number 3. Well, digging and clawing his way down the track, but not the distance looking for here tonight. For the Massey, as he's going to come up short here. So Virgil Gooding, 148-72, 148-72. We'll put him a little bit back in the pack here amongst our V8 hot rod competitors there you can see down there. And, well, actually, I'll put them last right now. Number 8 spot behind the cockshut. As well, once again, Full Pull Live here. Dan Mayer joining you here from Satsuma, Florida here. As for night number 1 here of this Just Add Dirt Motorsports super event here. As Mark Kelsey and his crew have really built a beautiful facility down here and taken this old dirt track and turned it into a motorsports park here. As we talked about earlier, they'll have the dirt drag races coming up here next weekend. Very big down here in the state of Florida. So if you are down in this area and want to see another unique motorsports, make sure you do come down and check out the sand drags. Run the big scooper tires on the back. As we are just about ready to go 5-0 Pro Stock Pull-In here tonight. Once again with the Outlaw Circuit here. This is their sanctioning for this class here tonight. So Jeff Parker, longtime puller, going to be up number 1 here out of Martinsville, Ohio. Our first puller, the Out for Justice tractor. Of course, the Parker family for a lot of years ran the Pro Stock tractor. Actually, Jeff Parker for a lot of years used to go and run with the Outlaw years ago. Put on a lot of miles from his home base in Ohio. And go run with the Outlaws. So our test hook here, 5-0 Pro Stock class. 10,000 pounds, the maximum weight, 680 cubic inches underneath the hood, but one single turbocharger. It is a 5-inch turbo. This class gaining more and more popularity as, of course, the Outlaws have adopted that rule years ago, the box turbo. We've seen NTPA has adopted the Region 2 circuit, as well as PPL on the Midwest, or on the Western Series. All right, here we go. John Deere going to get us rolling here in our 10,000-pound Pro Stock class here tonight. All right, so Jeff Parker will set the mark here. Now, Jeff's going to have 2 tractors here in the competition. So we'll see whether or not he's satisfied with this one here. This is the Out for Justice tractor. He'll have the Road Gear Plus. That's the name that he has run for so many years. But that tractor will be a little bit later on in the field. Take a look at this ride right here. Back to the V8 tractor class, the V8 hot rods. It looks like we've got a mishmash. We got the Ford hood on this tractor. And take a look at that header setup on this thing. As this is going to be Tucker Keller. Another one of the tractors out of DeLand, Florida. This is the Ford. So we get the distance here for Jeff Parker at 3:54.08. 3:54.08. So as our test puller, going to take that run there and set the mark at 3:54 and change here in our Pro Stock class here tonight. So we've got the V8 hot rod, Tucker Keller out of DeLand, Florida, on the start line here. And looks like we may have an issue there with the Ford. As we bring out Ryan Luckhart with the Pure Attitude machine, the 1086 International next up in our Pro Stock class here tonight. Of course, red and green shootout. going to be followed by the Cotton Picking Deer of 10 Couch, and then we've got Fly You Fool of Chuck Holsworth out of Sherman, Illinois. That tractor we talked about it on the Countdown show earlier. That tractor's been hot here the last few months. But first things first, we got the Pure Attitude. Take a look at the concentration on the face of Ryan Luckhart. So Pure Attitude, International 1086. So 354 and change, the John Deere. Jeff Parker leads the way. So there we see Tucker Keller, his Ford, taking the longest ride in motorsports off the track here, unfortunately, and we're not going to see that Ford run here tonight. The Ford Hot Rod, they'll take it back to the pits, and hopefully we'll see that short wheelbase monster tomorrow night. So loose change in John Nicole, going to be our final puller there in the V8 class. As we go back, Pro Stock pulling right now, the Pure Attitude. Watching the gauges. All right, good run, but we can see just shy of that 300-foot mark out there is Jeff Parker with the Out for Justice at 354. So the John Deere leading the way here. Oh, the Alice Chalmers loose change. And John Nicole, that Alice Chalmers AC 195. Good looking ride. Just not able to get that power to the ground here. So it looks like Lawrence Heyman going to be our big winner in the V8 class. Got that tractor stretched out quite a bit. Tube chassis underneath. As we see here on the replay, we've got the Pure Attitude of Ryan Luckhart. 309 and 86 tonight. 309 and 86. We'll put him down there, number 2, behind Jeff Parker. So 5-0 Pro Stock pulling here. As we'll have the Cotton Picking Deer up next. The Fly You Fool, and then the Radical Red, our next 3 pullers coming up here. So there we see that Cotton Picking Deer. Of course, that tractor for so many years, a full-blown Pro Stock, and then they went over to the 5-0 class a couple years back. So I do believe we'll have Ken Couch piloting the tractor here tonight. All right, so out of the state of Tennessee. Going to have the Cotton Pickin' Deer Ken Couch going to be doing the driving here. They'll have, actually, Ken will be driving both tractors, the High Cotton as well tonight. So just outside of Memphis, Tennessee, as we see the final results for the V8 tractor classes. We're ready to go. Cotton Pickin' Deer. Oh, here we go. Back again, the V8 Hot Rod. We got Leslie Pitts and the Outlaw Alice, and he's getting a little squirrely. But still getting after it here. The Outlaw Alice, that's the D17. Leslie Pitts now, he turned down his run of 246 and 41. So he was our test puller. He turned that down, and he came on back here. Laid down a good run here second time around, but I don't think he got that 299. We'll have to wait and see here. So I think that'll officially conclude. So 346 and 83 for Ken Couch, 346.83. Not by much. We'll put him in that number 2 spot. So John Deere right now 1 and 2. As we've got Chuck Holsworth coming up next here. At the Fly You Fool, John Deere. So we'll make a weight change over there on the grandstand side. We'll have the Super Farm tractors will be up next. As we see Chuck Holsworth waiting in the wings over there as he gets ready. So the Outlaw Alice goes 237 and 56. So actually doesn't do better than his first run there, 237 and 56. So he had 246 first time around. So not the night for the Outlaw Alice here tonight. So Chuck Holsworth, the Fly You Fool tractor out of the state of Illinois, Sherman, Illinois. Got a crop dusting service. We saw this tractor down in Lufkin, Texas, the end of last year. He had a big win down there just 1 week ago at the Southern Invitational up there in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, the indoor event. He took the big 5-0 win up there as well. Right now, he's just having a little bit of issue getting that tractor into gear. So hopefully nothing too serious here. We see the crewman down helping him out. Shut down on him. Nothing another can of ether won't take care of. So we are just about ready to go. Super Farm pull-in over there on the grandstand side. So we just saw the Cotton Pickin' Deer Ken Couch out of Jackson, Tennessee. We talked earlier just outside of Memphis there. And Chuck Holsworth there having he's kind of ginger there. He's hurt his shoulder. As it looks like we've got the Bleeding Blue, Scott Kiskadden, over there on the grandstand side as we start Super Farm pulling. So looks like we've got some Limited Pro, Light Pro tractors over there. Kind of a mix of a little bit of everything over there on the grandstand side. They're going to call it the Super Farm class here tonight. So Scott Kiskadden out of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. We got a whole bunch of tractors out of Chambersburg here tonight. The Bleeding Blue going to get us rolling here. This is the New Holland. As we see over there, our Beck's hybrid sled, they're adding another 2,000 pounds to get that ready to go for the Super Farms. As Chuck Holsworth, he's backed in here, got that tractor up and running. So 354 and change. Jeff Parker leads the way. 10,000 pound pro stock class here tonight. Let's see if this tough running John Deere out of Illinois can put another one in his back pocket here. 354 and change. Is our high water mark. Here we go. All right, the Fly You Fool. And Chuck Holsworth out of Sherman, Illinois here tonight. A good run. The big question, did he go far enough? That is the big question here. All right, we'll see here on the replay. Yes, new leader, Chuck Holsworth, trying to keep the streak alive here. 373 and 46. 373 and 46 for the Fly You Fool. So we'll blast into that number one spot here. We'll put Jeff Parker back number two. So we're almost ready to go there over on the grandstand side with our Super Farm class. They're calling it here tonight. We'll just call it a single charger class. How's that? So Chuck Holsworth lays down an excellent run here, is just about halfway through our 5.0 Pro Stock class here tonight. I think we've got 8 of them here. So, yeah, we're halfway through the Radical Red. Henry Smith will follow. He'll be up next. Jeff Parker's second tractor, the Road Gear Plus, and then Ken Couch with his second ride. So everybody kind of bringing a couple rides here. Chuck Holsworth's got his work cut out for him. Everybody's got 2 shots here, and Chuck's only got 1. So we'll see if that's going to be enough. As we're here, Satsuma, Florida, for session number 1 here just at Dirt Motorsports Park, as we see Henry Smith out of the state of Michigan, the Radical Red, backing in here. Henry out of Blissfield, Michigan. All right, so we just saw Chuck Holsworth making his way from the pits, gave a big thumbs up. He's happy. Of course, who wouldn't be? A run of 373 and 46 here. And do have some bonus money as well for tomorrow, I do believe, or maybe that was just the limited pro trucks. But all right, so back in the red camp here, the Radical Red. Henry Smith. Actually, they tell us going to be Henry Smith Jr. doing the driving. Yeah, looks like Jr. going to drive Radical Red, and then Dad's going to drive the Sneaky Snake to take us home here tonight. So here we go, the 3688 out of Blissfield, Michigan, Henry Smith Jr. And the Internationals not able to keep pace here with the John Deeres here tonight. Chuck Holsworth out at 373 and 46 as Henry Smith Jr. got off to that left side of the track here. So 339 and 85. 339.85 for Radical Red here tonight. 339 and 85 here in our 5.0 Pro Stock class. So we'll put him in that number 4 spot. Chuck Holsworth, the Fly You Fool, leading the way at 373.46. Jeff Parker's out for Justice. Still in that number 2 spot at 354.08. And then the Ken Couch and the Cotton Pickin' Deer. So he's going to shut it down here. We'll bring out a tow tractor. There we see a little bit of blow by out the bottom here. Scott Kiskadden out of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania with his New Holland. Of course, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, per capita, the most blue tractors, pulling tractors you will see. Was part of that Forester pulling team, and it seems like everybody that Chambersburg, Shippensburg area down there. And all right, here we go. First hook, Scott Kiskadden in Bleeding Blue. Oh! And just kind of ran out of power right there for Scott Kiskadden. Our first hook here in our single charger class here tonight. We'll call it a mixed class. The Bleeding Blue T6 175 New Holland. Jason Forrester, he's going to be up next. Papa Smurf And then we'll have Shane Steed with all hooked up. Our next couple tractors coming up here as we go back to the starting line here. 5.0 Pro Stock class. As this is Jeff Parker coming on back. This is the Road Gear Plus. Martinsville, Ohio for Jeff. Now he currently sits number 2 with his first ride, the Out for Justice. There we see it, 354.08 on our leaderboard. But it's awful green there at the top of the class. And Jeff Parker would like to put another one up there. Let's see. All chasing that 370-346. Fly You Fool out of Illinois. Here we see the replay. Scott Cascadden, Bleeding Blue, 310 and 62. 310 and 62. I would imagine he's probably going to take that hook. We haven't heard otherwise there. There's a call for a tow there. So 310 and 62 over on the grandstand side there for the Bleeding Blue entry. As track is clear, here comes Jeff Parker, Road Gear Plus. See a great shot right there. Watch that smoke. Little double pump right there, and the John Deere 8410 going to come up short here. Jeff Parker, and he's shaking his head. He's got some issues, I think. All right, Papa Smurf. There we see the Papa Smurf out front there. The Ford 9000, Jason Forrester. Once again, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. Now, years ago, they used to have the Papa Smurf would come out and run down the track. 332 and 63. 332 and 63 for Jeff Parker here tonight. So we're going to put him a little bit further in back of the pack here as we go back to Jason Forrester. All right, so Jason Forrester right about that 300-foot mark here. That tough running Papa Smurf. Yeah, I was talking about years ago they would run this tractor, and actually at the farm show back the first year for the light pro stock tractors, and Jason had the Papa Smurf. Papa was running around down there, and the mascot. So a couple to go here in our Pro Stock class, and they're both going to be red here as we'll have Ken Couch's second tractor as we see Jason Forrester at 302 and 23. 302 and 23 shy of Bleeding Blue here tonight. 302 and 23. So Ken Couch will be up next here with his second tractor. As we see our leaderboard here in our Super Farm class. as we see on the back of Ken's tractor, it's go time. IH-1206, Jackson, Tennessee. It was pretty unusual running the International in a John Deere, but Couches have done that for quite a few years. So we've got two to go left here. So we'll have Ken Couch and Henry Smith, our two final tractors here. Night number one, Satsuma, Florida. Well, I'm going to have to say that Chris was driving the cotton picking deer, because we've seen Chris walking around there with his fire suit down there, so I'm going to go with that. All chasing, 373.46 over here on the infield track. 5.0 Pro Stocks, 2 left to go here. Starting to cool down here. See the crewman off on the side there, just a couple cans of ether. All right, Ken just waiting for the roller to finish up down here at the finish end of the track, and then we'll turn them loose. All right, track is clear. Here we go. The High Cotton, Jackson, Tennessee. This might do it right here. Ken Couch. What a run. This is going to be close. Wow. All right, back over. We got the Ford, another Ford. Shane Steed all hooked up. The Iron Maiden. Going to be Sue Johnson, actually. Sue Johnson. We're going to skip ahead here. So the Iron Maiden and Sue Johnson. Our next puller up here. All right, the Ford 7910. And Sue Johnson, now she had to go better than 3:10.62. I do believe going to come up a little bit short to that, but we'll wait officially on the measurement. But back over here on the Pro Stock side, Ken Couch, the High Cotton at International, laying down an excellent run here. And we will see here what the distance comes up. And there we go, 3:61.35, number 2 spot. Great run. It looked to be a little bit further down the track there than that, but as we can see, there's that leader mark right there on the right side, and just short. But a good run there for Ken Couch with the High Cotton. He'll take over that number 2 spot. Is back over here, Super Farm side, where Sue Johnson with the Iron Maiden goes 2:77.20, 2:77. 38.20 here tonight. So Sue out of Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, with the Iron Maiden tractor. So we'll see what tractor will make its way to the start line next up over on the grandstand side, as we will finish out our Pro Stock competition. And of course, there's a name that needs no introduction. The Pro Stock pulling right there, the Sneaky Snake name, and it's made so famous by John Lawrence out of Fresno, Ohio, so many years ago. Now Henry Smith piloting the Sneaky Snake there as we take a look down the turbocharger. So I think track definitely there for the taking here. We'll see if Henry can get it done. Henry Smith Sr., we saw Junior out there earlier with the Radical Red. Now it's Dad's turn. So Chuck Holsworth, he's got to dodge one more bullet here. 373 and 46. Sneaky Snake wants to take the big win here. So one final tractor to go here, and then we're going to go modified pulling over here on the infield side. We talked to Scott Tedder earlier in our countdown show and kind of talking some history of the old days of the Mr. Twister team. But here we go, Sneaky Snake on the start line. Oh, man. Going to get another shot here, if nothing serious. And he's saying, yep, pull me back. So, pull me back. I'll take another shot. Oh, and there you can see the belt. And we see a lot of liquid out the bottom of the Sneaky Snake, and I have a bad feeling this just might be it here tonight. All right, looks like we're going to go back over the Super Farm side. Mark Culbertson and Stitch, our next puller up here. Of course, Mark Culbertson, another puller out of Chambersburg. Actually, I think every tractor here in this class. Actually, we got one out of Shippensburg and the rest are out of Chambersburg here tonight. The Fords. Well, it's Ford 9000. And a good run, but all chasing that. Bleeding Blue, Scott Kiskadden at 310 and 62. And a real tough break there for Henry Smith Sr. as pulling the Sneaky Snake off the track here. Just well, by the luck of the draw, he had drew number 8 in the class and just not enough vehicles left. And there is no more vehicles left in the class, so just could have dropped and but he's going to take it back to the pits here. They're going to check things over, and we'll hopefully see him back out tomorrow. So 38.25 for Henry Smith here tonight. So that means Chuck Holsworth, another victory for this tractor, the Fly You Fool. 373.46 will take the win for the second weekend in a row back to the state of Illinois. Ty Cotton and Ken Couch will finish up in the number 2 spot, 361.35. Jeff Parker, number 3 at 354.08. Then we'll put Chris Couch, number 4, with the Cotton Pickin' Deer at 346.83. And then rounding out the top 5 was the Radical Red and Henry Smith Jr. at 339.85. So great class there of the 5-0 Pro Stocks. And once again, we'll see them again tomorrow night, session number 2. As we go back over Super Farm side here, Mark Culberson at 279.03. So 279.03, number 3 spot here for him. 279.03. So Macy Kiskadden with the Smoke Show should be up next year. Then we got the Bulls Binder, Doug Heyman, and Beefy of Anthony Hamrick. Going to be our final competitors here as we're going to load the wagon over here on the infield side, and the on-the-mark sled is we'll have the modified tractors will be our final class here on the infield track here tonight. We've got 4 of those. And just concluding here with our Super Farm tractors as the Blue Parade continues here. So a great show by the 5-0 Pro Stocks here tonight. Of course, the 3-0s put on a good show as well. So congratulations to, we talked about Bo Curry and the Gunslinger earlier, taking the win. And now Chuck Holsworth with the big win, as we see Macy Kiskadden with the Smoke Show making her way here to the starting line. So we'll get things rolling tomorrow afternoon at 4:30 start time for our Countdown to Pull Time show. And then 6:30 we will finish up pulling action here in Satsuma, Florida for session number 2 here at Just Add Dirt Motorsports Park. And all the action right here on Full Pull Live. All right, let's see if Macy can get it done here. The Smoke Show. And it looks like not lined up the way she would like here. So I'm going to give it another shot. If you take a look down inside of that single turbocharger. Once again, turbocharger, basically an air compressor, but it works off exhaust pressure. All right, Macy giving some last-minute instructions here and going to turn her loose here. All right, Macy having trouble right off the start line there. They'll pull her back, give her another shot. All right, so we'll get Macy back to the start line here, giving her second attempt. As we just about got that on the mark sled ready for our modifieds. Final class here on the infield side here tonight. All right, here we go. We got Macy back hooked up here for her second attempt. 3:10 and 62 is the mark to beat there. 3:10 and 62. Come on, Macy. There she goes. All right, makes a nice run here. We can see going to be short of that 300-foot mark here tonight. So short of that 300-foot mark. So two to go over there on the grandstand side. As Macy's distance 2:59.41 here tonight, 2:59 and 41. So we'll put her in the number 5 spot here. As we see that course, Don Dean, the Plumber's Nightmare, Trafalgar, Indiana, longtime puller. Which will bring that tractor to the starting line there, and talking to Don about how in the world, I mean, all the lines and everything with the turbine engines, and how do you keep track of everything? And he says, hey, it's, you know, running these for so many years, and good to see him down here in Florida as they'll fire up those turbine engines. So our test puller here, 7,500-pound modified class. Was Don a many-time regional champion in Region 2 as well as Region 4 competition. Got his crew chief, his dog, on hand here this weekend. All right, so Don comes out with a little puppy motor. He'll bring him out onto the start line there, and then we'll start to fire up the turbines. He's got a mishmash there. He told me down in Raleigh that, you know, to get the horsepower ratings for the regional modified class, had to kind of mishmash the engines there. And it's like our starting line cameraman. You better watch it down there. He's flirting with disaster. Don starts firing those up. All right, we should have the Bulls binder up next here. Super Farm side. All right, so out of Ridgely, Maryland, this is going to be Doug Heyman. Got that 5 millionth international paint scheme on the tractor. Out of the state of Maryland. Here we go. Oh, I think we're going to have a new leader here. And it's a red one. 3:10.62, the mark to beat. As Doug Heyman out of Maryland. A great run here. The Bulls binder. All right, we start to see the fire out of the turbine. Don Dean, a guru of these turbine engines. Of course, condolences. We lost one of our gurus, Bob Soyson Sr., just about a week or so ago, and another one of the turbine guys that for so many years with that flying machine. So condolences to the family as we get ready to go here. The Plumber's Nightmare and Don Dean, our test puller here in the modified class. Trafalgar, Indiana, just south of Indianapolis. Up there in Johnson County, Indiana. Here we go. All right, good run for Don Dean. And the Plumber's Nightmare, and he's giving thumbs up right away. He says, I'm going to take that hook. As we see the Bulls binder, 3:26.62, new leader. 3:26.62, so new leader Doug Heyman out of Maryland with the Bulls binder will take the lead here. And we'll see, we should have, well, we didn't see the all hooked up in Shane Steed as we get a distance of 3:12.29 for Don Dean, 3:12.29. And he takes that run here. So we are officially underway over on the modified side. Scott Tedder with Mr. Twister will be up next as we see the Beefy tractor. This is Anthony Hamrick, Ford TW25, and you can see the Forester sticker on the side. So the Beefy tractor. Anthony Hamrick, well, he's out of Woodstock, Virginia. So he's not out of Chambersburg or Shippensburg. He's out of Virginia. The Ford TW25. So good run there for the Beefy tractor out of Virginia. But going to fall short here to the tractor from Maryland, the Bulls binder, Doug Heyman. So we will see here if Shane Steed going to make his way out on the track here. He was entered. Another one of the tractors out of Virginia. As we take a look here, Scott Tedder going to fire up the Mr. Twister for second generation puller, Marion, Indiana. Scott talking to us earlier tonight, mentioning that so busy with his engine building business, just doesn't have the time to get out on the national circuit like he would like, but he's going to make a concentrated effort here this summer to get out on the NTPA Grand National Circuit a little bit more. So we fire up engine number one right there, and we'll lock up the clutch on the back engine there. They'll fire that engine up. So we saw the turbines. Now we're going to see the Hemis go to work here tonight. As they'll get that left front engine up and firing. That's how you get 3 of these big blown and injected Hemis to fire up. See the superchargers up on top, the lower belts running off the engine's crankshaft. So Scott Tedder, Marion, Indiana, brings out the Mr. Twister out on the track. He was talking about the new tire setup he's got on this tractor. There's some of the pullers going with the different number of lugs on them. So looking at about 75 to 8,000 horsepower right here, about 2,500 horse apiece. Those big monster Hemis. Now this tractor, when not running the regional limits, will actually run 4 of these engines. We'll slide that back engine over to the left, and we'll put another Hemi over there on the right side. They'll take that transmission they got in between there. That transmission there is so he can run the 3 engines and not have to change the rear end in this tractor. The gear set. So when he runs the 4, he'll just put it straight through on the drive line there. Here we go, Scott Tedder, Mr. Twister. Oh, and we saw some smoke, and he got out of it. He had taken over that number 1 spot, but we did see some smoke. And out of that top engine there, and he gives a wave to the fans here. Not sure if we got a valve cover leak or some oil out there, but looks like that might be the case there. We see a little bit of oil out on the headers there. So he will take over the number 1 spot here in the modified class, Scott Tedder. So 372 and 28. Wow. Really getting locked in here tonight. 372 and 28 as he takes over that number 1 spot here in our modified class here tonight. So we'll have 2 left to go here in our modified class here tonight. So that will conclude action over on the grandstand side. So we'll get the graphic up here for our Super Farm leaderboard here tonight, as that will conclude the class. As Doug Heyman out of Maryland going to be our big winner here tonight. There we go over our Super Farm leaderboard. The Bulls Binder at 326.62, and Doug Heyman will take the win, and then it's blue from there on out. As Bleeding Blue, Scott Kiscaden will finish up number 2 at 310 and change. So there we see our next puller up here, and looks like they made a driver change there, as that's Corey Forrester sitting up there in the tractor. So the Perfect Storm tractor here, as Corey Forrester going to be doing the driving here in the seat here tonight. And then we've got the Huntsman and Ian Ericker going to be our final puller here of the night. So track crew finishing up here before we fire up the perfect storm here. Of course, new modified here for the Forrester family. All right, so all chasing at 372 and 28 here. Scott Tedder leading the way. As there we see the combination there on the Perfect Storm tractor. Basically the same setup there. We just saw Scott Tedder, except as that back engine turned around on him. All right, so there we take a look here as one of our Super Farm competitors. As we'll fire up the Perfect Storm. And Corey Forrester here tonight. So winding things down here, session number one. As we've got just two tractors left to run here, both in our modified class. So there's our Super Farm leaderboard. As the Bulls Binder takes the big win here tonight. Lead blue, Jason Forrester, Papa Smurf will finish up in that number 3 spot as we've got that tractor fired up here. So Corey Forrester bring it to the starting line here. That's a tractor that Rod Cochran from up in Canada ran for a few seasons. Of course, lineage goes back to the Running Bear. Randy Davis back many years ago. Yeah, supercharged Ford motors on this tractor, Ford Hemis. Of course, if it's Forrester, gotta be Fords. So Corey Forrester behind the wheel here, the Perfect Storm here tonight. We've seen, of course, Corey over the years. Son's Airborne Light Super Stock tractor. Had a big win Bowling Green years ago with it. And of course, his old hot iron tractors, all different versions over the years. But behind the wheel, 3 blown and ejected Fords here tonight. All right, so we'll see Corey Forrester here. We'll get the slack out of the chain and ready to go to work here tonight. 372 and 28 the mark to beat here. 372 and 28. The tractor out of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. so Corey Forrester, the perfect storm. We saw that tractor shooting ducks out there. Some of the cylinders not firing, but nonetheless a good run here. Looks to be a little bit shy of that 300-foot mark here tonight, so 284 and 40. So 284.40, the distance for Corey Forrester here tonight. So we are down to one, the Huntsman. And we'll see if Scott Tedder can hold off one more here. Don Dean sitting number 2 with the turbine entry, the Plumber's Nightmare, at 3:12 and 29. So crew just taking a couple extra minutes down there, get that starting line area back in shape. And we will have just one to go here as we take a look at the Chevrolets right there. As this is Ian Ericker. Calls his tractor the Huntsman. So winding things down here at night number 1 here, Satsuma, Florida. As we'll be back at it tomorrow night for session number 2. Cannot be here in person. We'll gladly see you out here on Full Pull Live. As we'll bring you all the action once again, as we'll have all these competitors, all these classes coming on back for night number 2. As the weather's supposed to be another perfect day tomorrow, so we should have temperatures up near 84, 85 degrees tomorrow. And so track crew will go back to work here, and real good show here tonight for session number 1 as we get ready to finish it off here tonight with the Huntsman tractor. All right, so modified class here, 1 to go. Scott Tedder leading the way, 372.28 with the Mr. Twister. Don Dean, number 2 at 312 and 29. And we'll put Corey Forrester in that number 3 spot with the Perfect Storm at 284 and 40. So there we take a look at the 3 blown and ejected Chevrolets on the Huntsman tractor. New ride here. Kind of a low slung design here, modern machine built tractor. Of course, that info coming from another former Chambersburg guy, Keith Horst, watching over there in Ansonia, Ohio now. All right, so hats off to our track crew here in Satsuma, doing a great job at keeping this track in shape here all evening long. As we will bring to the start line the Huntsman tractor of Ian Ericker. So congratulations, all our winners here tonight. As we'll see if any of them come on back tomorrow and repeat. The 3.0 Limited Pro Diesel trucks going to be running for a bonus here tomorrow. down there. He's just waiting for the call to go out, fire those engines up. Well, we've seen the Hemis, we've seen the Fords. Now it's time for the Chevrolet and the Turbines here tonight in our modified class, and the Chevys will get the last word here. All right, looks like we've got things just about ready down here trackside. And we will fire up the Huntsman tractor. So once again, full pull picks for tomorrow's program. Once again, make sure you do get your picks in before that particular class starts up. Of course, full pull picks, the only gaming platform of tractor and truck pulling, and have a couple different games. You select two, or you select one from a group. Just depends how they have the game set up. So here is the Huntsman. And Ian Ericker finally getting all three of those Chevrolets fired up. And we'll bring it to the starting line here. Got that number 3 engine sitting in the back there, kind of level with the other two engines there. A little different setup. Usually we see that back engine up a little bit. All right, so he brings it out on the track here. So the maiden voyage here for the brand new tractor. Looks like pretty much going to spot that sled dead center out here. So final hook of the night here, night number 1 here in Satsuma, Florida. And Scott Tedder has laid down a big distance here at 372 and change, 372 and 28. Leading the way here. Now we take a straight on shot of Ian in the seat. See those small airplane tires that was made so famous. The Walsh brothers years ago actually brought those to the sport of pulling and did that so they could mount those engines way out front, help with the weight distribution on the tractor. And here we are, about 40 years later, still putting them on these modifieds. So the Huntsman ready to go to work. Here we go. And not the debut he was looking for there. Is not sure we got a timing issue or what, but things just not working for Ian here tonight. Well, unfortunately, that will be it for the Huntsman here tonight. And we'll see if he can get everything back together. So we'll get the distance in here for Ian Ericker, and that will conclude our program here tonight. Well, actually, looks like we're going to have a test pull over there on the mini side. And yeah, we see sparks and a little bit of everything out there. Woo! All kinds of fire in. Particular timing. Oh, here we go. Mini rod. All right, so it looks like I had a test pull there over on the mini side. Possibly a late entry here tonight, but unfortunately 2:16 and 50 will do it for Ian Ericker here tonight. As unfortunately looks like we've got our first candidate for Wild Rides and Wrecks for next year. As Ian unfortunately issues out of that left front engine there. So 2:16.50. So Scott Tedder going to take the big win here, 3:72.28. Don Dean will finish up number 2. We'll have Corey Forrester in that number 3 spot. And then, of course, the Huntsman, Ian Ericker, will fill out our top 4 finishers here tonight in night number 1, session number 1 here at the Satsuma Pull here, and we will see you back here tomorrow night. We're going to sign off here tonight, Full Pull Live. I'm Dan Mayer. Thanks for joining us here tonight, and we will see you tomorrow right at 4:30. We'll have our countdown show, and then we'll go pulling at 6:30. Good night, everybody.